Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and happy Friday. I would like to welcome you all to the Access Program's August Community Chat. My name is Jessica Perrin, and I'm the Program Manager for the Access Collaborative Program. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started, I just wanted to briefly share with you a little bit about the Access Program at OSU and the purpose behind our monthly community chats. The Access Program is an academic and social support program that assists parenting students who are pursuing their college education at The Ohio State University. We offer a variety of services to the parenting students in our program, such as programming on parenting and life skills, child care and housing aid, and scholarship opportunities. Since 2005, our program has organized and offered the National Student Parent Support Symposium with the purpose of bringing together students, community, and higher ed professionals to discuss best practices when supporting post-secondary parenting students and their families. In May, we successfully hosted a virtual version of the symposium. So in an effort to continue the conversations that began at the virtual Student Parent Support Symposium in the spring, we decided to host monthly Zoom meetings focused on topics and discussions relevant to parenting student support and success. It is our hope that these monthly community chats will evoke impactful and thought-provoking discussions and conversations. Today, you will hear 3 short presentations from our esteemed guests. Following their presentations, we will engage in a discussion-based Q&A session with our panelists and all of you. With that being said, I would like to introduce our speakers for today's session. Today, we have with us Dr. Autumn Green from Wellesley Center for Women. We have Teresa Bell from the University of Hawaii, Manoa, and JD Graham from Family Scholar House. Dr. Green, I'll turn the session over to you.
All right. Unmute myself. Okay. So my name is Dr. Autumn Green, and I have been working with Teresa Anderson from the Urban Institute, starting to look at and document what's going on with student parents during the COVID-19 crisis. And so just to frame the situation and the panel a little bit more, the folks at Ohio State asked if I could introduce the panel talking about what we've seen so far in terms of student parents and the pandemic. So before COVID-19, what did we know about student parents? We know now that there are about 3.9 million undergraduate students with children, which is 22% of US undergraduates. Unfortunately, the data that's collected, there's a lag, and so our most recent data that we have on that is from 2016. However, the previous data in 2012 actually showed a lot more student parents enrolled, and one of the theories about why was tied to the Great Recession. And so thinking about COVID-19 and the current recession, we may expect to see the number of student parents begin to increase as more people are being laid off from their jobs and looking to go back to school, as also looking to take online classes as an opportunity for remote work and income, as well as education. We also know demographically from our friends at IWPR that student parents are more likely to be low income, more likely to be first generation college students, disproportionately women, and disproportionately students of color, even to the point that 47% of African American female undergraduates are mothers. So we also know from the folks at Temple Hope Center that nearly 2/3 of student parents are experiencing food insecurity. Nearly 2/3 experience housing insecurity, and 14% experience homelessness with their children during college. So we know that those basic needs were not being met for student parents prior to COVID-19. And so now, as we're thinking about how has COVID-19 exacerbated these challenges, and the first is the context of remote learning. There's a lot of confusion right now in terms of the classes. Are they Zoom classes where everyone is coming into the classroom at the same time and meeting synchronously? Are they asynchronous, more like traditional online classes? How do we maintain structure and accountability, especially when you have children jumping on your back while you're trying to do homework because they're not in school or childcare? And the closure of campus childcare centers is another major concern that we're starting to see. In March, when childcare centers or the colleges closed, so did the childcare centers at most college campuses. And the reopening plans are still unclear for a lot of those colleges, but many of those colleges have decided to extend those closures permanently. And so we are expecting to see a significant drop in the number of on-campus childcare centers, which will have long-term effects in terms of student parent success, because we know how important campus childcare is. Another issue is the income loss, and I know Teresa's going to talk a little bit more about how that's affected her students at University of Hawaii, but with the job loss, most student parents work in low income and service economies type jobs, and many of them were laid off, and some have still not returned to work, are needing to find remote work opportunities or seek retraining. We also are starting to see, as states are ending their eviction moratoriums, that more people are dealing with housing security issues and the possibility of facing eviction because of the loss of income and inability to pay their rent. The programs for the most part are still closed, although many of them are now operating remotely and trying to provide some support services. But again, like for example, the University of Vermont has announced that they will be permanently closing their campus childcare center. The other thing I just wanted to mention in terms of childcare is that it's really a dual-edged sword, because what we're also seeing is a transition in the early childhood education training programs that are preparing our future early childhood educators and childcare providers, also changing the way that they're working with their students to require less in classroom time and training, working directly with children. And so we have a concern as well about how that will affect the long-term quality of early childhood education. So going back, thinking about, what are some of the other issues that are going on? Obviously, food security and the digital divide have both been exacerbated. People are now having to try and navigate health services in the context of finding telehealth services, navigating what that means and what is and isn't covered for them and their children. But these last two, I think, are just really critical, and I've heard people talk about the most, especially from the parent advisors through Ascend at the Aspen Institute have really talked about what it means to try and be at home with your children, be their homeschool teacher, be their speech pathologist, be their be all and end all for your children, while you're also trying to study, work remotely, and maintain your benefits eligibility requirements. And how difficult and stressful that situation has become in light of the pandemic. And the last one is about peer support, and we refer to this all the time as social capital, but really thinking about how do student parents find each other, how do they start to build visibility, how do they start to build a sense of belonging. And a lot of the time, those interactions happen on campus, and within a remote environment, it can be more and more difficult for student parents to connect with other student parents or not feel alone. So how have some of the institutions responded? Well, we can see here's a basic list of how we've seen many institutions start to respond to the pandemic. So in terms of remote and virtual services, what can we continue to offer in a remote way? And one of the most creative ideas that I've started to see popping up is Zoom babysitting, where you have someone hanging out with your children, doing activities, doing story time, doing other things with them on Zoom, so that you can sit at the other side of the room and have some time to do your homework. I first heard about that at Portland State University, but I've also seen it start to pop up at other colleges as well. Another issue that I know was especially important at the beginning of the pandemic, but that we have to continue to consider, is how do we make sure that student parents have enough technology, the access. And Savannah, who's one of the Ascend parent advisors, talked about living in a remote part of Maine where her program actually had to provide portable internet hotspots to make sure that everyone was able to access the internet, because the majority of their students previously went to campus to access the internet. And then the last one obviously is basic needs security, especially with the closure of campus food pantries. Some campus food pantries have reopened. Others are doing home deliveries or other kinds of emergency supplies and food for student parents. We also are seeing, emerging need for eviction protection, emergency assistance to keep student parents from becoming homeless during the pandemic, as well as the need for legal support and assistance. I haven't seen any particular examples of the legal advocacy component of supporting student parent success yet, but I think that it's something that is sorely needed and will be increasingly needed as we move forward. And then the last is thinking about, making sure that student parents know how to access and maintain their benefits in the remote world. It was already incredibly difficult to get through to caseworkers at various offices. It was already very difficult for student parents to navigate public assistance benefits that they need to support their families and stay in school. So thinking about how can the colleges and universities and other programs that support student parents really help co-navigate those benefits and make sure that students don't lose those benefits during this time. So the thing that I think that we just want to stress is that there's a need for ongoing research on this issue, because we're really concerned about how deeply the pandemic is going to affect success for students with children. And specifically what interventions can be made in real time that can help to address and lessen those impacts in terms of students stopping out of school or other facing challenges that derail their academic success. So these are some of our goals for as we're moving forward with research on this issue. And just the importance, we're working with student parents to have them keep journals, and also to do periodic interpretive focus groups. And I just wanted to mention interpretive focus groups as something that it really seeks to solicit student parent expertise and input as part of the process of data analysis and interpretation. And I think that it's something that's really important in doing work with this population, to return what we learn to them, to have further discussion and be able to break things down and talk about what we find. And so the other thing that I think is really important, and I want to stress to this group, is the importance of tracking your own student parents during the pandemic. We're very concerned that many of them are going to fall through the cracks and remain unnoticed. And so there are different ways that you can do this. You can do it with your own program enrollment data, looking at how many students you had enrolled in the program last year and versus this year, and continue to try to keep track of that way. You can also work with your college's financial aid office, who can give you aggregate numbers of students who claim a dependent child on their FAFSA. And you can use that data pre and post COVID to look at how your college is doing in terms of retaining student parents. And these last two things are more about having student parents journal and blog and otherwise document their experiences as they're going through this, and really making sure to check in with them and find out what their challenges are as they emerge, because we're seeing things that have been, unprecedented thus far in this field. And so just being able to continually check in and respond intuitively and in real time is going to be very important as we continue to move forward. And that is our contact information, and Teresa is also on the call and will pipe in during the Q&A.
Thank you, Autumn, for sharing that information with us. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Teresa Bell from the University of Hawaii, who's going to share her screen and talk to us about what her program is planning and doing and all the great things there.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say that I'm so happy that the Access Collaborative is continuing these chats. And I wanted to say that as someone who is multiple time zones away, that this convening of peers and colleagues has really been important to me. And it's a really important place. And so I wanted to thank the Ohio State and Tracy for doing that. I also wanted to thank Tracy because she was talking to us as a smaller program focusing on student parents. So I'm at the University of Hawaii, and I'm going to share a little bit about different programs I run. But I just want to share with you as my colleagues and friends to be and friends of years that we are all doing the best we can to meet our students' needs and to engage with the best practices that we know, and doing that with the limited resources that we have. So like we tell our student parents, you know, feel good about the things you're accomplishing because you know you're doing your best. So all of us as campus programs are struggling, and the University of Hawaii Student Parents at Manoa program and Bridge to Hope, we're your struggling peers. And so that's the context that I wanted to place my PowerPoint. So one of the things that I wanted to share with people is that those who know me, so this is our contact info, and we're going to be talking about 2 programs. So some folks who know me, I wear multiple hats. I am the program coordinator for Bridge to Hope, which runs a program that has specific eligibility criteria that the students I work with are very low income, TANF, quote, welfare participating students. And this is a program that's offered on all 10 campuses of the University of Hawaii system. It includes all of our community colleges and our baccalaureate and our Research One institutions. Student Parents at Manoa, which I also wear a hat for, but have some help with, grew out of Bridge to Hope. The early years of Bridge to Hope, I was the only person on the Manoa campus who knew anything about student parents, and everyone was referring folks to me. But as you see, Bridge to Hope has very explicit criteria. So certainly I can have conversations and assist students, which I did, but that some of the more employment elements I wasn't able to help with. I'm also still the person most likely to be referred to if a student has need of community-based social services. So I created a website in 2007 because otherwise I was spending all day answering phones and emails. And then in 2012 was able to sort of cobble some funding and hire a staff person. And since 2015, Angie Solomon is my colleague, and she runs Student Parents at Manoa, which our acronym is SPAM, which if people know anything about Hawaii, it is an excellent marketing tool for our program. So the key differences are Bridge to Hope serves TANF participating students. I have a much more high touch, intensive activity relationship with the participants, but they're spread over 10 campuses. Student Parents at Manoa works with any student parent on the single 4-year Research One institutional campus, our quote unquote flagship campus of Manoa. And SPAM does have a mix of engagement, some high touch with those who want to engage with us. And then both of us collaborate and share ideas and labor. So we're always at each other's functions and assisting. And I just put down at the bottom our funding, so people have an idea of who we are and what we have in terms of resources. And Angie does a great job with the $5,000 a year she gets. So I'm gonna focus and identify things that are Bridge to Hope specific versus Student Parents at Manoa specific. The biggest pivots that we've done with the COVID are around technology. Everybody is, like Autumn said, and as we know, currently Hawaii's public school system is at school at home. So all of our student parents are homeschooling their children in addition to their, our university campus was intending to have a mixed hybrid of classes. And as of last week, this week we've gone to another level of stay at home. So everybody is Zooming. So What we have done is really ramp up the ability for students to connect with us when they need to. So Bridge to Hope has aggressively used a new online appointment booking system that the university has developed, and they piloted with academic advisors during spring. And we're one of the first student services programs that has sort of taken it up. And then both Bridge to Hope and SPAM are offering online drop-in. So during the day, a student can click and see the waiting room. So on the right hand of your screen, the Balance Express appointments, students can see where they are in the waiting line. It tells them how many students are ahead of them, how long their wait is. When they are ready to be seen by myself or Angie, then they get a text and it says, you know, in 5 minutes, be good to go. Angie, bless her soul, she is a student parent. She is not a student parent. She is a parent. She's not a single parent, but she is a parent. She is also schooling at home her children while doing her job with SPAM. And she has decided and agreed to provide late night, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. virtual drop-in office hours. So, and I've offered to do 9 to 10. 11's a little late for me if I'm getting up early. But this is something that we know, this is when our students are doing their own work. And if they can connect with us, this is a good time for them. We used to have an in-person Aloha Friday drop-in session, lunch, peer support, resources sharing, and that has moved to virtual. We did that in spring. It's going to continue in the fall. We do know that by Friday and by the afternoon, our student parents are really zoomed out. So those who come are energized, and it usually includes intergenerational folks, as we know, there's always our family members in the backgrounds of our Zoom. But that's a big pivot for us. And then for Bridge to Hope, I have done mostly using old technology, really reaching out to students by my cell phone. And thanks to Susan Warfield at University of Minnesota, who previously when I'd looked at Google Voice, it wasn't available, but with COVID, they revamped it. And so I'm texting and using my cell phone, but not my personal phone number, with students, and that's made a big difference. And then we're able to offer drop-in assistance by phone or Zoom. And so those are the big pivots for us. And oh shoot, sorry. This is why people don't do Zoom. Okay. All right. So support services in terms of pivoting for that. Bridge to Hope, I have been particularly focusing my attention and energy on engaging community services. All of the students I work with individually are need to be able to maintain their benefits, as Autumn was saying. So we've been doing unemployment applications, understanding student employees fall into this black hole, they're not eligible, and the university aggressively pursues that they are not eligible for unemployment. Then they get into the hole for pandemic unemployment. So I spent a lot of time with that. How to complete our county's household relief applications. Our state human services took COVID and used it as the rationale to bring online applications to our SNAP and cash benefit program. We've been trying to get that done for, like, I'm really embarrassed to say how long, decades, multiple. We do ongoing communication for food drops, COVID testing, technology access, our CCs have really shared technology with laptops and tablets, but the four-year institutions are woefully unaware of our student parents' digital divide. We also spend a lot of time on questions about campus-based CARES Act, assisting with financial aid, academic action referrals, understanding, especially under COVID, the credit, no credit, withdrawal options students have. I'm developing a career development curriculum that's in development but not done now. And we get a million questions about childcare subsidies and people looking for slots, right? So Spam itself has really worked on its visual communication. So our challenge was, how do we find students and how do students find us? As other people have mentioned in the chat and has been an ongoing conversation nationally, financial aid officers are no longer our bestest of friends, and they are not sharing the kind of information they previously did. So, we're really experimenting. This is a good example of us, like we're all struggling. We're hoping that social media can amplify our word of mouth, coconut wireless. Spam really ramped up. They used to be primarily Facebook. Now they've got Instagram, Twitter, and a really awesome, engaging newsletter via MailChimp. So used to be that they had long, detailed emails. And now the newsletter is really engaging. And they're also surveying folks. And then our program as student parents, we did snap outreach to student parents and then extended it to the entire campus. And actually that's one of our most effective ways of being seen by people that we don't know about. So, okay. This is an example of the different pieces of Angie's really colorful new newsletter. So Counselor's Corner, it's small type, but it particularly addresses your children of different ages and ways to deal with different kinds of family concerns. We've got our QR codes. The Got Kids We're Open is on our door if anybody manages to stumble on campus, which we thought might happen a couple weeks ago, but now does not. And it's really an exciting, colorful new way of doing things. Community building, like Autumn said, this is the big challenge for all of us. We're hoping that people will continue to utilize our Aloha Friday drop-in. Until recently, we were planning periodic outdoor public space events and had survey questions about, would you participate, what time, where, but under our new stay-at-home, that's not an option anymore. So I put these here because I know we usually have the video or PowerPoints available. These are tools that we've found because we only use the free versions of anything. Canva is really great for graphics and flyers, and then you can put them in your MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, and Google Forms. And then we know that we need to rebuild our websites. So we're looking at WordPress, and then that's our contact info. And I'm going to stop sharing and will be available for questions later.
Thank you, Teresa, for sharing so much really good information for us. I think you covered a really broad spectrum of those type of student parents we might encounter, because I think sometimes our conversations are around the lower income students, but learning how to manage and serve the ones who aren't necessarily low income but still need support is a super important conversation.
Well, and I'll just share that I really focused on spam, but anybody who wants to reach out to me regarding very low income, welfare, cash assistance, SNAP, participating families, the challenges of those, it's like a whole nother conversation. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We'll come back to some of these conversations in a little bit. Next, I want to go ahead and bring up JD Graham. She is going to round out our presentation portion by speaking to us about Family Scholar House. And after that, we'll dive into some of the questions.
Awesome. Happy Friday, everybody. You all almost made it. Almost. We're so close. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh. Okay, where are we? All right. Can everybody see everything?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is JD Graham, and I'm honored to work with Family Scholar House. I'm the associate director of programming. I also have had roles within family advocacy, as well as internship, as well as also a graduate of the program. So Family Scholar House is really close to my heart. So I wanted to focus this entire presentation on really resilience, because I resonate with all the other presentations. And I think that the one thing, if anything, that we really highlight is the resilience within tough times. If anything, our families are the non-traditional families, and they are rocking it out the best that they can. And I really think that one thing that we can always emphasize and really like hone into is resilience, and that it is showing up for us, showing up, but also that they're continuing to show up in so many different roles. So I kind of want to walk through today a little bit of what Family Scholar House is doing and how we're serving our single parent families during this time, and what we have kind of really had to be really intentional about and creative in order to feel like we can best meet our family's needs. So first, Family Scholar House, our mission is to end the cycle of poverty and transform our community by empowering families and youth to succeed in education and achieve lifelong self-sufficiency. Now, this would be possible without your support. Support is in many forms. Our programs and families are in need of both financial and material support. So that is a little foreshadowing of something that I'm going to get to at the end on how not only we can support our families, but that our community can support our families. Okay. So we are an education-focused program. We also have a housing component. We believe in second chances and fresh starts. We believe in the resilience of the human spirit. We believe that our past is part of us, but not defining us. And we believe in the wonderful single parents and young adults who come through our doors determined to make the most of new opportunities. We currently serve 585 families in the residential program. And we currently have 247 single parent families and 32 foster alumni that live at our 5 Louisville Scholar House campuses. And that is not including all the people that are on our waiting list. So Family Scholar House, a little background. We were born from Project Women, an organization originally established in 1995 by representatives of 6 orders of nuns. As Family Scholar House, our name reflects a bigger, broader mission and comprehensive, holistic services for disadvantaged single parents, their children, and foster alumni. So all of our families have experienced poverty, unstable housing, and most often domestic violence. Programs and services are responsive to the needs of families and are provided for all ages. We do not only serve the single parent, but we serve their family. And sometimes that even stretches into their family as well. So one thing that I am really honored to say about Family Scholar House and our staff is that we have showed up. I think every agency can really resonate with the fact that it's been messy and that it's been a roller coaster, and that we have truly had to get creative. I think not only has that been a beautiful thing, but it's also sharpened our skill sets, and it's also given us an opportunity to say, okay, what can we do that's different? How can we serve that's different? How can we show up without physically being there? And I think that it's really driven our team to be able to show up in different ways and realize how important being intentional is. So we have showed up during this pandemic differently than we ever have before. We have dropped off, we've done weekly drop-offs. We drop off weekly notes of encouragement to their doors, cafe meals and pantry essentials. We have had the ability to provide Chromebooks for them, headphones, cleaning supplies, TARP passes still, and masks and gloves so they can stay safe. We also have stayed in Google Hangout form. So all of our meetings are continuing to be face-to-face. They're just virtual. So we're not only doing one-on-one family support services and academic coach meetings, but we're also doing them in groups. So we're having walk-in meetings. We're having opportunities where our community can connect through a screen together, and we're choosing to show up differently. One thing that we use that has been such a blessing is our Red E app. So this is how we've been communicating, and it's the safest way for communication. So it is a way that we can send mass messages, but the awesome thing about it is that if anyone is to respond to the app, it goes directly to the person that sent it, instead of like if you were to send an email, and it would be more like a reply all. We use this for crisis communication, coordination, announcements of campus activities, participation recognition, surveys, and form delivery, resource directory. Our staff is also using this for COVID screenings. If we ever enter campus or walk on campus, that is something that we're able to do from this app as well. They're a great partnership. We have had summer learning opportunities. So our kiddos have, we've really had to get creative on how this confine of their beautiful apartments can turn into this space of imagination and creativity, and an opportunity for the family to connect. Also, opportunities for them to gear up and get ready for virtual learning and their school in general. So we've done what's called a HUG program. So it's currently a pilot, but we have one child, and then we have 3 other children that are attending to do a reading program. So the HUG program is representative of helping us grow, and that has been a really beautiful opportunity. Also, we hire teachers for the summer work, so we have invested in 50 plus Family Scholar House students. So actually, 2 of the teachers that we were able to hire are Family Scholar House graduates, which is really amazing. So we have a K through 2 teacher, a 3 through 5 teacher, a 6 through 8 teacher, and a 9 through 12 teacher. So the teachers, we actually dropped off assignments and little baggies of materials, and they would do Google Meets, and they would go through them together. We're also helping our older kiddos, our rising juniors and seniors, with scholarship information, preparing for college, workbooks, education materials. School supplies is a huge thing right now. Also, we had a camp here in Kentucky that offered both the parent and the kiddo to do a social distance nature camp that was absolutely beautiful, free of cost. We had 10 children sponsored, and they had an incredible time doing that and getting out into nature. Okay, JCPS has begun in Kentucky. That is our school system here. So we have connected with the school system, our public school system in general, and we have communicated with them on how we can make it more of a success for our families. So we have worked with them about getting their Chromebooks, also about hotspots through the public school. We have collected and dropped off school supplies. We have done that in a social distance way also. We've provided school supplies, backpacks, specific items that they need, such as like rulers, or if they're in specific classes, calculators, all that good stuff. And also we are connecting with resources for uniform assistance. Uniforms are so pricey, and we're working with the school system to see how we can get those also donated as well. So, and also we get our community involved. We do calls to action. We get on social media. We also have been on many local news stations to ask for what our families need. There has never been a need that we have not asked for and we have not received. So we have an Amazon wish list that is constantly flowing, where people are giving and doing specific school supplies, backpacks. And we also are asking people to be Family Scholar House connectors. So friends for families, like be a person that's going to support our families and get them through this tough time. We also have an amazing online learning system that has been really beneficial during this time. So it's called FSH Academy. And due to our families juggling a lot, we are ensuring that they have opportunities, especially in the non-residential portion when they're trying to get into housing, to gain points and to attend workshops. We did not want this time to prevent people from being able to begin this new chapter of their life. So it allows individuals to learn and to engage and to actually take little quizzes to make sure that they're retaining this amazing information in regards to financial, academic, and some of the simplest of things, such as cooking or professional dress or meditation, mindfulness. We have people from all over our community that have aided in these videos to bring so much good resources to our families. So some of the subjects are professional etiquette, how to tie a tie, how to open a bank account, building self-confidence, how to prepare for job interviews, talking to your kids about social media, and more. One that I know that has been a huge hit right now is we have someone that did a series of mindfulness and geared it towards our younger kids, and then did another video for our teens, and then did another video for the adults. So we have been sending those out, and they have been providing feedback that it's really helpful during this time that they're in their homes. We also, during this time, brought in a health and wellness coach. So this person is not only serving our families, but also our staff. So Family Scholar House believes that wellness is fully tied to helping our families achieve their academic and family goals. So our wellness coach is here to provide support, education, and resources to help our families. So she provides individualized meal plans, individualized workout guides, virtual meditation and mindfulness workshops for stress management. She also has been doing virtual yoga and stretching sessions, helping with what food you can get with your SNAP card and how can we make these amazing healthy meals, and also cooking on a budget and nutrition education. She has been a blessing. She has been popping in. People are doing amazing things. We have many on our campuses that are now having workout groups together, and they have found new tools and new ways to cope and really take care of themselves during a really difficult time, and built relationships and friendships. So that's really amazing. And the last thing I want to talk about that is so beautiful is our art therapy groups. Our art therapist has been amazingly intentional, and has also had to get very creative. So she focuses on things that such as stress reduction, body awareness, visioning, inspirational quotes, doodle meditations, positive affirmations. She wanted to really make sure that she was saying, hey, show up and be in this space, but know that you don't have to bring anything with you. So she makes it a very open space, and it is virtual. So in the group setting, she only has 5 so that it can stay somewhat intimate. And then she also has been doing one-on-one with our families. And during our drop-in days, if they have decided that they want to work on canvases or something like that, we drop off the materials for the residents so that they don't have to worry about getting those things. Chenoweth has also provided space for the staff as well, as we are, processing, as we are giving, as we are continuing to support our families during this time, and so that we are in the best place emotionally and mentally that we can be to best serve our families. Chenoweth has brought so much love and mindfulness and a space for our families to feel like that is theirs. And then they can do some real processing and breathe in order to continue rocking out their really busy lives. So I'm very proud of Family Scholar House and how we have showed up during this time. And I think, and I know without a doubt that our families know that we have been here, even when we haven't been there. And that's a really beautiful feeling. So obviously we've had our times where we're like, this doesn't work, this does work. But I think overall we've continued to show up, and we haven't taken this isn't going to work as an answer. So I really just am very proud of our families. I'm proud of all of our survivors in the community. I'm proud of everyone that's continued to show up and get creative during this time. And I think that all it has done is help us to see how intentional we are to be with our families and with those we serve. So that's all I have on my part.
Thank you, JD. I want to ask you really a quick question that Teresa asked about the art therapy. Was that for adults or was that for the kids?
They can do either. So there's family sessions. We have a couple, I know specifically on the campus I work for, there's a mom and daughter that do it together. She also can do teens and kids can hop on. There can be just time and space for kids to do it. So she'll do individual with a parent, she'll do a family session, or she can do individualized with the kiddos too.
Got you. So it's kind of like a drop-in. We might have this session, a feature like this paint and sip this day and this paint and juice this day.
Yeah, well, and they can set up individually with her too. So that's totally on their time frame whenever they want to do it. The advocate will normally connect them, and then they decide what time best works for them. So
got you. All right. So thank you, ladies, for sharing some of this great knowledge with us. We want to move into our Q&A session to kind of dig a little deeper into all the conversations you've offered us. And some of these questions might be geared towards JD or just to Autumn or just to Teresa, but we're going to try to cover them all in the next 25 minutes that we have. So for those of you who are still submitting questions, just put them in the chat. We're seeing them. If you want to hop in on and talk to us virtual, like actually talk to us, we can do that too. Just let us know or just turn your video on and we'll see you waving and you can talk. So the first question I wanted to ask, and this might be geared a little more towards Autumn, but from a programming standpoint, Teresa or JD, you can chime in. How has your data collection or surveying methods changed if the parenting students are only virtually available? So if you can only meet with them on Zoom or some virtual platform, how are you still collecting the data you need and making sure it's like verifiable, I guess?
Well, so I think the most important thing is triangulation of multiple data sources. And so that's why I think, we always start with the institutional data and trying to can we get data for the whole institution through FAFSA data? I saw another question asking about that. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Technically, you're supposed to be able to, but that doesn't mean that it always works out. But many people do have at least their program level data where they're tracking their own students that are in their programs, and so they can use that. I think the big difference is that we're now not meeting in person. We're not doing in-person interviews. We're not doing in-person focus groups. And we're not doing in-person observations. And so that is different, but at the same time, it actually for student parents makes things a little bit easier to participate because they don't have the same obstacles to physically getting to the location so long as they have the technology available. I started using this journaling research method where basically what we have is a survey monkey where students log in every week and respond to a series of questions. Some of them are like a text box where they can respond, and the others ask very pointed questions about what some of the things that happened in their lives this week. And so by tracking them on that shorter term level, we started to already be able to see those changes. And so that's a method that we're using now as we're launching this research project, is continuing to use that periodic tracking method, which is is referred to as a research journal, but really, like I said, it's set up as a series of surveys. And so then, the other thing that we found when using this method before is that when you look at the entire journal together, the series of survey responses for each student, and it really starts to explain the outcomes. Did the student pass their classes? What kind of grades did they earn? Did they end up having to drop classes or take incompletes? Or and you can actually see how these various life challenges and experiences are directly impacting their academic success. And so we're continuing to use that method. But I personally actually enjoy the virtual interviews and focus groups because it does seem to make participation a little bit more accessible for student parents.
Thank you. Teresa or JD, have you guys figured out, are you guys chiming on this one?
I'll just say that one of the challenges of virtual is engaging with new students, because I think we're all trying to learn how to create interpersonal relationships via this virtual engagement. And so, honestly, a lot of us know that getting somebody to participate with your survey and to commit to the time and energy, in addition to whatever incentive you can offer, really a lot of times comes down to whether or not that student and you have a strong enough relationship that they will give the survey the time. So.
We also use a database called Salesforce. So every single drop off, every single interaction we have, phone call, email, Google Meet is all documented that way, with a very detailed description of what we discussed and what we provided and how we serve them, so that we can all serve as a team. So that's normally how we're documenting all of those. We also have had to switch a lot of our formats to digital. A lot of the things that we were doing in paper, we are now using in a digital format. So we are able to then upload those pieces of paper or documents or anything into the Salesforce portal. So.
Thank you, ladies. There are different like resources and ways to do it, but I think it's important, especially as Teresa, like you're saying, trying to reach the new students, and keeping those retention numbers up and stuff might, become a big difficulty for all of us. The next question I want to ask is about the programming side of things. So, JD, you kind of mentioned this with a point system. Are you at least currently or having to plan to incentivize your parenting students to attend programming, because they might be bombarded with all the Zooms and everything else?
So the people that are within our program, they have set guidelines of how many meetings and how many interactions and workshops that they are to stay in compliance. But with that, we are being very compassionate, and we are being very diligent in making sure that we are not overwhelming them. So the things that we're providing are things that are going to give them space to like feel seen, heard, express themselves, such as interactions with the health and wellness coach or the art therapist. We're making definite additions to what they would normally be doing if we were in person, to things that are going to relieve stress. Because we want to make sure that the things we're providing with them are not just another thing on their schedule, but something that they're going to hop into and feel like better because they did that. And so we think that that's very, very important. As far as the non-residential side, we've had to flip everything to virtual. So normally they would be coming in and doing their orientations in person. So now we are doing them in a Zoom format, and we are doing the exact orientation, but they're going to have to attend the workshops, and they're going to have to do the FSH Academy and all of those things in a virtual place where they can do it at their homes. But we have not stopped. So all the steps that they would take as a non-resident, we're still doing, but we're just doing it like this. So we as staff had to make sure that we're providing a space and an environment to where they still feel like we're right there. And it's just as sacred as if we would be doing it in person. So they're still able to check in, they're still able to get their points, and they're still able to attend workshops and everything. It's just not in person.
Teresa, how are you feeling about that question? I know you have a much smaller team there, so to make sure your people are popping in or getting the program that you're promising in grant work, how are you going to like make sure they come?
So for Bridge to Hope in our TANF participating families, actually, the welfare office carries the big stick, not I. So, but I've spent a lot of time, and actually, everyone now is on, good cause exemption from any of their SNAP or cash assistance requirements. And so part of what I do is spend a lot of time ensuring that people understand that, because I actually, it's distressing when people are falling through the cracks. When I talked to a student last week who's talking to me because I said, okay, I've got some new remote work for you, and she's like, can I put it in my timesheet for last week even though I haven't done it yet because I got to work? And I said, well, what are you talking about? Are you worried about your case manager, or are you worried about your household budget? So and she was worried about her case manager. And so it was like, okay, so this is like the 5th month of not having to meet those requirements. but actually her situation had changed. So it was the first time she was engaging with that. Our student parents who are not involved with any programmatic requirements, to be honest, we're just really swimming trying to figure out how we're going to be able to engage with them and see who comes back from last year. Hunting for the new folks. So it's, and really trying to ensure that the time that they spend with us is actually worth their time. That's always the bar and the standard that we have, because we know that we don't take it personally as a program. People have a lot of other things that are much more important than what student parents at Manoa is offering, if it's not related. If it doesn't bring you income, doesn't bring you some kind of direct service for your household, they have to have the time to focus on themselves. So, but it's a big challenge.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I mean, having the stick of those services, I think, helps sometimes when that's what's holding over your head. You don't have to offer much more. So I think that probably is a big help compared.
But I'll share, I spend a lot of time creatively addressing workfare, welfare requirements. So, that's a way that those Bridge to Hope students engage with me, because, one of the, the hard part now is that no one is employed. I saw in the Q&A, somebody was asking, what are the problems we have that we can't address? And it's like, our family's household resources have plummeted. And, even if you have cash assistance, it's not enough. No one I know, no student I work with knows how they're going to pay their rent, even though the eviction, they can't be evicted, right? There's no rent forgiveness. So, that's our national push, right? We got to work on something like that. They're worried about debt. And then the other element that we've really had trouble addressing is our university doesn't have funding for Wi-Fi access, and the campus's response is that they need to come to campus. So
yeah, that sounds like a very four-year institution.
Well, and even the CCs, because we have students who live in remote areas who are, camped outside of the Starbucks because it has a hotspot, and the hotspots don't move into the places where people didn't have access to start with.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I'm on a roll with internet cable providers who are refusing to acknowledge that their salesperson didn't ask if the household was eligible for the free cable. So, and I just oh my God. So those are, the digital divide is a huge problem. And I've been connecting with other community groups, because we have public housing where there's 800 families with children in school and none of them have Wi-Fi. So.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's a national issue that we're all facing. And it's really, from my educator lens that I wear on most days, it's terrifying to see that happening. But I will not get on that soapbox today. So,
well, I really appreciated JD's presentation and Family Scholar House's acknowledgement and integration of wellness, because it doesn't get enough attention, and it really can build a strong foundation for people to be resilient.
And as you're saying that, I was thinking about her presentation, because the wellness coach probably would not have felt very happy about their students sitting outside of a Starbucks, because those drinks are about half your day's worth of calories anyway. So, or sitting outside of a McDonald's. I might sit outside McDonald's because normally they have nice lobbies to sit in with Wi-Fi. Not a healthy choice from the wellness coach, I'm sure.
You can just sit in the parking lot, Jillian. You don't have to go
Yeah, I was
in.
going to say you're not required to purchase anything to access the hotspot. And the other thing that I enjoyed, actually, we've been working with one of our university faculty specializes in mindfulness. And, you know, the number one message for mindfulness in my novice mindfulness engagement is to be kind to yourself about your choices.
Yep. You got to pick and choose those battles. I think I'm learning to have less in the kitchen if I'm gonna have to have my desk in the kitchen, because then there's just less options. I want to roll into another question. I think we're gonna have time for maybe two more. So Marissa asked earlier on about her institutional research office being difficult about getting that financial aid information to find out who has indicated that they have a dependent on their FAFSA. I know we've had our own share of difficulties getting that information. How have you guys kind of navigated that, or have you? Is that still an issue that you might have?
Teresa, do you want to talk about this first, or Teresa, Bill?
I think I replied in the chat that you know, the institutional research office is in the strongest position to ask for that information. And that we know that nationally financial aid directors have been directed not to share. So it's been a big challenge. And actually our financial aid officer offered to send an email about our program to folks. I have to say that that's not our most engaged way of reaching student parents is email from financial aid. You know, they have offered to do that for a long time, but we used to write our own little nice thing, right? So, but I do think that research offices and those officers are able to have conversations with financial aid on a different level about aggregated data, right? Not individualized data. Because what we are asking for is individualized data, right? Like, can you give me the email of this student so they can opt in or opt out, right? So.
I think I would have to go back and look at a presentation we had, but during the symposium, the virtual one, with our Title IX coordinator. I wonder if that's a point of leverage to try to make getting that data a Title IX issue so that you can service that subset of students. I would have to go back to see our presentation. It's featured on our website as well. But I feel like she might have talked about that.
That would also be tricky because it would not capture pregnant students who have not yet claimed their child on their FAFSA. And but I wanted to go back to the issue that Teresa was talking about that the aggregate versus individualized data. So because FAFSA data is so heavily protected by FERPA, some financial aid officers feel uncomfortable sharing that data. However, there has been guidance issued directing them that they are able to share the number of students who claim a dependent child, so the aggregated number. What they cannot share is the individualized data, and there's still some discrepancies and disagreements about whether sharing internally is allowed for the purposes of identifying students for services. And of course, that, like Teresa said, they would have to opt in. You can't mandate the student to participate in the services, but the process that Teresa talked about in terms of you can ask the financial aid office to identify those students and send them all a letter for us, letting them know about. So it does make it a little bit more complicated to reach out and connect with the student parents. But in terms of collecting the aggregate data, I agree with Teresa entirely that the IA office is gonna probably have the best level of access, especially if they're needing to explain one of the things I've found is that if there's a reason, for some reason, we're using the family friendly campus toolkit, and we need to have this number. If you partner with your institutional research office, you're much more likely to be able to get access to that information.
Thank you, Autumn, for chiming in on that. And thanks for the question, Marissa. I feel like that question probably comes up on like almost every one of our sessions, because it's that like constant ceiling that a lot of the programs hit, because it's data that's available. And
I do want to share though that this conversation happens on a lot of platforms, but there has been a earthquake level shift in financial aid directors' ability to assist. So, so Marissa's comment about, previously, my other institution, now, I mean, at their national conferences, they are told not to share. So, and then there's just the level of the Trump DOE on top of it. So, so it is a new landscape in terms of getting information. And our financial aid officer wants to be helpful, but she's not going to do that anymore. So the other thing I'm trying to think about, somebody was asking about finding students, and I have to say that I think I'm the least. I'm looking for younger participating parent students to help me think about ways to connect with folks. Because we used to put flyers on people's windshields in the parking lot, really like generic kind of stuff, and virtually finding ways to do that. I do really think that our parents are sort of aggregating in different social media platforms, and we got to use them all. So
that's what I totally was going to say is, do you all have like a substantial social media platform? Because I feel like honestly what reels people in, like, in the billboards, when you see the billboards or when you see things and you see a parent and a child, the first thing that a person that's going through something is going to see that and be like, I resonate with that. I wonder what it is. So what I was thinking is almost if you could, one thing I feel very strongly about is using the voices of the people that have encountered that are the populations that we serve, but their voices being seen and heard, because I feel like those voices are the most powerful. And it also like gives this feeling of someone else like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I'm wondering if you have someone that's benefited from your program, from the organization, that can almost do like a really short like video that you could put on social media that literally is just going to gauge someone that's scrolling through their feed and be like, man, I can just hop over there and do that. I think right now vulnerability, and I think truth telling and people telling their stories is the biggest form of promotion and resource referral that we can possibly even fathom. I think with everybody, being at home, a lot of it is constant, like interaction with the phone, constant reeling, constant social media. And so one thing that's going to tag them and that's going to like draw them in is something that resonates with them. And sometimes that's not, a flyer or something on their windshield. Sometimes it's a face of someone saying, man, I didn't have internet access. I was sitting outside of Starbucks. I was doing this. And now look, this organization has picked me up off my feet and I'm doing like great things. So really just highlight the things that you have done and the people that have benefited, and see how many other people that you can get to also feel like me too,
Mm-hmm. Thanks for chiming on that. I think you guys have built up this conversation around that media platform and the need for this increasing media presence to touch new bodies and to maybe touch the ones who maybe were in the program last year and aren't coming back, or the ones who maybe left a few years ago and are like, you know what, I'm at home with my kids anyway, I might as well go back to school. So I think you're right, like you're right on time with trying to touch people in many ways to get them back where they need to be. So the last question we will do to wrap up is coming from Stacy Hartley, and I believe Stacy is still in the beginning process at Bowling Green State, because she's joined us for a few times, which I'm glad you're back. She's asking basically just for a brand new program. What are some advice you're giving for like what initiatives are the most impactful for student parents? Maybe not just right now in this pandemic, but from the broad scheme of pre-COVID. What would be the advice of the most effective or impactful initiative that you guys would start off with if you were starting a new program? And this is probably for JD and Teresa. JD flipped her hair back.
A loaded question. But you know what? I think the way to start anything is to meet people where they're at. So I think honestly, what you would need to do is to see what the needs are, what the common threads are, what something that's really cool about our campuses is that we have 5 campuses. The energy of each campus is so different. Like the vibes, the energies, the needs of each campus. And so each advocate has really had to hone in on, okay, what does this specific campus need? Because maybe they need more healthy relationships. Maybe they need more financial. Maybe they need more academic. Maybe they need more mental health, mindfulness. So I really think it's going to take a brief examination of like, what do these people need? And then I'm going to go after that fiercely. I'm going to get the resources. I'm going to put that information out there and I'm going to see what that is. Because if we serve everybody the same, it's not going to work. And we're going to lose a lot of people that maybe you have something that they're like, oh, you know, well, that just doesn't apply to me, you know? So I think that hone into the gifts, hone into the little things that you know are pieces that they really need. So is it housing? Is it their dreams? Is it their goals? Is it getting into school? Is it them getting actually a diploma or an apprenticeship or something to get them past that mental block that they can't do it and they never will? What is it? What's keeping them from thriving? And how can you say like, I have the resource that you need to thrive? And then I feel like just promoting it and like meeting people where they're at. I don't think we know unless we ask. And all the time I'm humbled every day when I think I know things or I think I know what my participants need and I realize it's like completely opposite. So I think the only way that we can walk in or serve anything, and this is obviously from like a social work perspective or like a support service programming perspective. I can't give you all the logistics about anything else. It's not my gifts. But what I can do is say that there's a lot of people that need things. And the only way to get them to realize that you are a resource for them is to get really specific and intentional about that. I mean, how many times have you seen a webinar or something pop up on your screen and you're like, I don't want to know anything about that. Like that doesn't apply to me. That's not going to help me in my work. Right. But if you see something like Single Parent Symposium and you're like, oh, I totally need to hop on there. That applies to me. You know, so it's like, how can you kind of go into all those lanes and be like, we still have this for you. Like we have this for you, and try to do it that way.
So I'll chime in and say that I agree with JD's assessment that it's always nice to know and to ask people what they need. But as a program that had one person that people were referring to all the time, if you can choose to engage your personal knowledge base on the issues that are likely to be concerns. And for us, like I could spend my entire day answering questions about how to apply for the child care subsidy and how do I find age-appropriate child care either near my home or near campus. And then the other part was, how do I get my child into the campus-based childcare? So those different things, it's like, if you can build your expertise around a couple issues, there was that. Right now, you know, Hawaii has a national devastating houseless problem. And currently I have to tell people that housing, like I can help people with almost everything, but not housing. It's like just become too big. But before it became too big, I had a list of resources of transitional housing. SNAP and food access for families, because a lot of student parents didn't realize that they are most likely to be eligible. So those were a couple different entry points, and then took a big marketing sort of visual campaign. Actually, we don't have any marketing. It's all word of mouth. But that's sort of how we started with our program. And then the other thing to remember on our campus, and our four-year institution is what I call in complete denial that they are a urban commuter campus. But to address those commuting students' needs are also student parent needs. So, so if you can connect and partner, and we are always partnering with other folks because we have you know, limited resources to bring to the table, and so all of us got to hooey up and, you know, do the potluck of, you know, I got $500. I can't buy food, but I can buy this kind of thing. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Are you going to chime in, Autumn? Or are you good?
Yeah, I was just going to say one more, just a couple of resources. One is the Family Friendly Campus Toolkit that Teresa, Bill, and I were both part of in its initial phases. And that toolkit really provides a lot of resources for how to do that needs assessment and find out what your student parents need and who they are. But also, you know, thinking about what can we do right now. The things that come to mind just very quickly are offering coaching, offering peer support groups, which can really double as a place that staff can hear about the students' needs and do some assessment there as well. And thinking about, you know, can we start offering some basic needs deliveries or other resources to make sure that students are connecting. And I think that with those kinds of strategies that you will have student parents start to connect, but that the marketing piece is also very important, and thinking about, you know, how to make sure that student parents see that there's a program and find out about it.
Beautiful. So, ladies, I want to really say it's like a big super thank you. I know we were going about 7 minutes at this point over time, so I won't ask any more questions. But I just want to say thank you, because this, you know, this month was really important for us to come back very strong with these chats and capture the essence of what's happening for our programs right now, and try to give this spectrum of what, you know, what I was talking about in this last question, a starting program might be struggling to do or figure out, and where to kind of start, and what some more, you know, seasoned programs might be doing with various team sizes and various budget amounts and all these things, and some of the research that's happening alongside that hopefully will come out, you know, in time and give us better hindsight of what happened and inform our supports in the future. So on your screen, you're just seeing the contact information for Autumn, for Teresa, Bill, and for JD Graham. I've thrown their web links in the chat as well if you want to quickly click those and grab them. Ladies, we're super glad to have you. You guys are also always on our sessions anyway. So I was like, this is what community looks like. We want to hear from you, everybody. Though the Ohio State University often hosts these things, we want to capture everybody's experiences and what's happening on everybody else's campuses, because we learn from everybody else. As you know, it's all this big machine of student parent support. So to wrap up, I just want to let everybody know that next month we'll be right back here. Our chat next month will take place on Wednesday, September 30th, 2020, and you will be starting to get some contact about this via our listserv about midway through September. That will come with the Zoom registration link like you did this time. Additionally, if you're interested in leading one of our sessions, we plan to have these sessions every month leading up to the National Student Parent Support Symposium that will come in the month of May. So if you're interested in sharing and engaging in some of these discussions and conversations with us, we do have a proposal form ready to go. So if you just go to our website, you'll find it there along with all the details on what we're looking for and what you need to send. So with that, I think we are good to close out. This recording will be available on our website sometime next week, and you are able to share that link with your higher ups, your superiors, your deans, your students if you want, whomever you choose to share it with, virtually or anything. And if you should have any questions, always reach out and contact us. We're always available at spss.osu@gmail.com.
Thanks,
All right, ladies.
Jillian.
Thank you.
And Jessica and Tracy.
Yep.
Aloha.
Aloha. Have a great semester. Start off, guys.